Hello peoples, it's Denny from Masterteacher here. And before I start, can you do the subscribe like thing please? Right, today I want to talk to you about experienced teachers leaving the profession, why, what can we do about it if possible. Anyway, share some ideas in the comments column below, but let's just start. Okay, so I'm concerned about it because actually we don't have a lot of experience in schools anymore, and I don't care which country you're in, there are a lot of countries who are in this same situation. So what do we call experience, and what is an experienced teacher? In New Zealand, there are teaching standards against which you are appraised, which are to do with whether or not you are meeting the standards for an experienced teacher. But there's no year limit on that, really, because in actual fact, if you're meeting those standards, you might have only been teaching 3 or 4 years. I'm sorry, that's not enough. And I'm sorry if you've been teaching 5 years. It's not enough. There's an amazing amount to learn as a teacher, and you will take time to do it. So let's get back to the original question. Why are experienced teachers leaving the profession? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but I'm going to talk to you about the fact that there's a shortage of teachers and experienced teachers have left the profession, and then we can look at what's happening now. Well, first of all, as you know, I'm an old lady, but I'm not that old. I'm 66 and I've still been teaching. I haven't given up. All right, so just so you have the idea, you can upskill yourself if you're old. You don't have to sit back and say, well, I learned how to be a teacher in the 1970s and therefore that's the kind of teacher I am. That's not what teaching's about. Teaching's about reflection and continuous improvement and all of those things. And if that's true, age doesn't really matter much. It might matter in terms of your physical health. That's a different thing. So let me talk to you then about what I know about the motivation behind some experienced teachers who have left. So in the 1980s, 90s, out came national standards and out came things like, whether or not we were meeting those standards and what we could do about teachers who weren't, etc. And we were trialling things like appraisal systems and all kinds of accountability measures that were taking place. There were also huge changes in the curriculum. Now, these changes even affected the way we wrote our reports. So when you wrote a report, your report could get totally rewritten to match what was in the curriculum, which is fine, only there were a few things that you couldn't say, and it made life difficult for some people. That doesn't mean to say that people couldn't have been trained and upskilled. Yes, they could have. But actually, people saw, experienced teachers, saw what was happening to their education, the system that they had built. They'd been part of, was their baby, and it had been destroyed. You've heard the saying, chuck the baby out with the bathwater. Well, that's pretty much what happened. Because out went the idea of children learning what they needed to learn, teaching to children's needs, to teaching to what children need according to the standards. And that is an issue. And that's a major issue for anybody who has some very strong feelings about child development and how that affects education. How children need to do things developmentally before they can actually learn some other things. And we talk about scaffolding, but actually this is the truth of it. So how can we create standards for every child as though they're all exactly the same and they're all going to meet them at the same time? They don't have the same backgrounds. I've done this in a video before. So experienced teachers clicked onto that very quickly and they saw what was coming. And they made a decision. Am I going to teach this way, or am I just going to say, well, sorry too much, but I'm just not going to be there for this. I'm out of it because I'm just not having a bar of that. I will not be part of this ridiculous situation, this education system that does not even come within cooey of what I understand of as education. So they found different ways of getting out of education. Don't forget, we had a lot of women in education at that time, and we still had a lot of women who were working, but their husbands were working as well. So there were a lot of women who were actually supported by husbands as well, but not all. So it wasn't all of them. However, there were other places to go with your skills, and they did. They left in droves. And what was left was a situation where we had to start getting teachers from overseas into New Zealand, which is fine. No issue with that. The only problem was they also needed upskilling. So, in their wisdom, what did our government do? And I don't know which government it was, so I'm not being political about this, although normally I would be. But our government, in their wisdom, didn't back up, or the ministry didn't back up, the idea of financially helping experienced teachers to refresh themselves. After they'd had a couple of years off, they could have gone back to teaching, but they had to do a refresher, which they were made to pay for themselves, and it was very expensive. So they didn't, and they knew that they could make more money doing other things, so they left. Then we're left with people from South Africa and the UK and all sorts of other places. Excellent. We need their culture. We're happy about their culture. What we're not happy about is the fact that we've got a very messed up, chaotic education system with a whole lot of people who don't have a clue what it's about. We have people who didn't have any idea who come from very formal systems. We have people who came from very regimented systems. We have people who had no idea about the local culture, who did not understand the environment, did not understand the history of this country. Now, this could be any country. I could be talking about any country in the world. But I'm just specifically talking about the one that I know the best. And this is one of the ones that I do know the best. And I can tell you that it caused a major problem. So, what did I learn from that? I learned that actually you have to upskill yourself as a teacher. And if the government or the ministry or whoever it is who's in charge is not going to invest in you, you do. You have to invest in yourself. So if you want to remain in teaching, that's what you need to do. But I did it differently. I decided that I needed to go and look at all the different education systems that I could see and have a look, see if there was one any better than ours. And of course, there's an amazing lot of things out there to look at. So who could blame any young teacher for getting up and going overseas? If you're getting bashed around at school by middle management or senior management, and you're getting harangued and harassed, and you're tired of people turning up on your doorstep and with no appointments and abusing you at the classroom door, is it really all that surprising that teachers left? I don't think it is. I think it's actually quite a logical thing that has happened. So now what do we have? Well, we have big gates on schools. That's a bit of a worry to me. And we have children who are sitting in classrooms with teachers who keep giving them worksheets, even though they know they're not supposed to, but they do. We've got to play up and climb out windows. We've got all sorts of funny, strange things happening. When actually we used to have kids who were engaged in their learning and kids who were learning. And I do not see, I'm sorry, but I do not see any improvement in education. So I think that you need those experienced teachers back, and we need to make sure we do not lose them. How do you ensure that you do not lose them? Well, give them a bit of respect and manaakitanga. That means caring, compassion. It means understanding. and figure out who they are. And also trust them because their heart's in the right place or they wouldn't be there. They could have walked long ago. That's my little bit for today. I'm still ripping the band-aids off this. And don't worry, there is more to come. See you soon. Bye.